I prefer if the notes won't appear if it's possible. Can I have my PC? Yeah, so that I can see the full screen. So hi everyone. The topic is about generating climate healing, post-apocalyptic spirituality in Octavia E. Butler's Parable of the Sower. Now, the contents of the article are three mostly. Maybe I would add another subtitle to the article. So the first part is the rise of climate fiction. The second, post-ecological breakdown and socio-economic inequality. The third is Lauren's gospel of change and climate healing. The first part, the rise of climate fiction. So climate change has caught the attention of a great number of readers because of its encompassment, that is, involvement of the topic of climate change. And it is actually a common theme in contemporary fiction. So the concept climate fiction is a neologism that was coined by journalist Dan Bloom in 2007. Climate fiction. It is a fiction that tackles social, political, and psychological issues that are in direct relationship with climate change. The events of the plot line of the novels that discuss climate change take place in a space that resembles Earth and like our times. And so it doesn't really usually take place in a future or in a far future. It describes the situation now. This is what it distinguishes climate fiction from other types of fictions. So there are, of course, exceptions, like the example of Frank Herbert's Dune. I don't know whether you've heard of the movie Dune, and it discusses the near future, rather, or the future, the far future, and it is rather a fictional planet. But what's interesting and what links it to climate is that the protagonist is trying to make the environment eco-friendly. So this is what makes Dune amongst the earliest illustrations of climate fiction. So is climate fiction science fiction? This is actually a common question that have been answered by many writers and academics, among them Margaret Atwood. And here I'm mentioning an article that I found really interesting, Powell Frillick, on not calling a spade climate fiction as science fiction. He believes that part of coining the concept of climate fiction is an act of the simultaneous naming of something else, which is actually science fiction. And actually, the writers that think that it shouldn't really be called science fiction are writers who think that science fiction is simply about aliens, apocalypses, and time machines, rather. So it is, according to them, science fiction is limited. However, of course, Frederick believes that there are some examples there are some early examples of climate fiction. So it's not really a recent concept, although it is a recent concept. It's not really a recent approach to literature. So the other reason that might have led to the marginalization of science fiction as a highly established genre is the belief that it it lacks relevance to our modern experience. We know that climate change is part of our lives nowadays, and some of the thinkers believe that climate fiction discusses contemporary topics rather than fantastic issues like going back to the past and all that. So, of course, there is an illustration that Freire gives in his article. Is that I don't know whether you heard about Lord Byron, Lord Byron's poem "Darkness." Although it's in a different century, it's a very old poem. It speaks about an imaginary future where it speaks of an apocalyptic setting, a place that is ruined, that is cold, that is corrupted completely. And this poem is a very, very early illustration of global warming, actually. So it is a kind of a prediction to global warming. And it is a very, very old poem. So climate change has been a theme in literature from very early centuries, actually. So contemporary modern writers, number three, so that you could follow, who are aware of creating fictional representations of the current climate change rely on environmental science. So this is mainly the difference between those who consciously call themselves climate writers, climate fiction writers, and those who do not call themselves climate fiction writers. So this makes the genre of climate fiction an annex to science fiction rather than an independent one, since it actually relies on science in creating the fiction. So Friedrich believes that science fiction does not need CLI-FI, it's an abbreviation of climate fiction, but climate fiction does need science fiction. Whether, though, CLI-FI is an independent genre or a subgenre, its need is vital, for we know that now humanity is taking less action towards climate change. And literature is very important in changing that because people engage more to storytelling. That is what makes people engage more to the reality they live in is when they are actually put in a story, when their lives, their characters, they interact, they find themselves in these stories, and when these stories actually are hopeful, they find solutions rather for their problems, for their current problems. So I think that people, in order for people to take action, climate change should be included more in literature. So Butler's, this is Octavia Butler. Her contribution, actually, the novel has been written before the emergence of climate fiction as an independent concept, as an independent genre, in a way. So her interest in the field has risen 2 decades before its emergence as an independent genre, which explains the unshakable connection between the two genres. So, sorry, there shouldn't be it's normally Parable of the Sower is set in an apocalyptic America that is affected by extreme weather change and social inequality. Actually, the novel, the plot line is as follows. It follows a gated community protected by its people in a chaotic world where there is poverty, crime, and that gated community is protected by Olamina, the father of Lauren, the main protagonist, and they live there according to the morals of Christianity, and they get to have an education and all, unlike the people who live outside their community. So they are protected for a while, but it doesn't last for long, actually. Both ecological breakdown and socioeconomic inequality. The ecological breakdown that is brought about by the extreme climate change has affected North America's economic, political, social, and spiritual stability. People outside Lauren's gated community live in utter poverty. They are homeless. They They are hungry, thirsty, because water costs, actually. There is scarce water and food. So they have to buy water. This is the word that is imagined, actually, the scenario, one of the scenarios that is imagined by climate change scientists. And Butler imagines a scenario like that we would eventually have to buy water, actually. And even police services are scarce. You know, you have to pay for the police when a crime happened in the community or something of the like. You have to pay the police in order for them to actually engage in the community. So it's actually a corrupt word that is ridden of civilization completely, except for the society that Lauren, the main protagonist, lives in. It's a society protected by her father. He's a great leader, and they follow the Christian tenets, and they know how to communicate with each other in spite of differences within the community. So capitalism and climate change. I think that capitalism has a great effect on climate change, the way Butler does in her novel. So the government's capitalist approach has broadened the gap between the social classes. As I said, the police services were scarce, and you can imagine what happened when police services are actually they need money. We can imagine racism. Imagine again. We can imagine that slavery would emerge again. So this is actually the scenario that happened, and it's here there is a governor, a president who was elected, but the people didn't have faith in that governor. Nobody elected, nobody cares about politics, and so people, it's how to say it, in survival. We say the survival of the fittest. Yes, so this is the kind of society that is imagined. So Christina Drew Volk believes that social injustice that has been spoken by environmental justice activists is delicately illustrated in parable of the Sower, where people of color and poor people are exposed to toxic waste and other environmental hazards. So in the novel and outside the gated community where Lauren lives, society has fallen out of civilization. Interracial relations are impermissible. Black men or women are not allowed to marry or be with white women. So this is all over. That is going backward. Society. She imagined the society going backward. And of course, the society outside the gated community of Lauren has fallen into crime, poverty, and inequality. So 3, this is the last part. Be patient a little. So Lauren's Gospel of Change and Climate Healing. It shows from the title that there is a religion that is followed by Lauren, but Lauren has a different idea of a religion. So although the main members of the Olamina family are equally intelligent, Lauren belongs to the generation of change. Her father is the source of knowledge, yet she is the source of change. So in most apocalyptic fiction, there is a protagonist who has a different vision, and that protagonist is to constitutionalize a new philosophy that would save its community, and this is what happens in the novel. It's actually Lauren leading the survivors of the community to a different conception of reality. So Lauren's religion versus her father's. Her father's is Christianity, traditional Christianity, and hers is something called the Earthseed. We'll understand this further. So the difference lies in the enlightened feminine vision of Lauren, who believes that her father's reliance, and this is how she calls her father's God, a big daddy God, or a big cup God, or a big king God, is dangerous, for she sees God as another word for nature. Now, the need for such a non-omnipotent figure is patriarchal, of course, according to Octavia and to Lauren, for it it keeps them safe from destruction and chaos, even when they are confined in a place that would evidently fall apart, because they would fall apart. The community uh, uh, would be destructed. This patriarchal order is blind to the conditions of life, and it is the basis for Lauren's opposition, since she sees the change is a key component for survival. Because according to her, change is a change of place and morality. She believes that going out of that gated community that won't survive the change that is happening around it is a necessity. And according to her as well, this is the most important part. Okay. Ah, yes, not yet. Okay. Now, change, because we need to understand that change does not mean the absence of God. Her rebellion is different from that of, let's say, her brother, Keith. Keith's rebellion is different from that of Lauren. So his is destructive, which is symbolic of the selfish individualism that is promoted by the American society, capitalism that is. And Lauren's is constructive because she cares for the members of her society. And according to her, spirituality and diversity are prominent creeds in her revolt, in her rebellion. Her desire for freedom is different from Keith's desire for freedom. Keith's desire for freedom is individualistic and selfish, while hers is constructive. She wants to rebuild her community. How does that accord to Earthseed? That is her Earthseed. I don't know what my English went today. Earthseed. All that you change. This is actually the beginner lines of the novel. The very first lines of the novel. It says, all that you touch, you change. And you can see that change is capitalized, the word change all over. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. Her religion is God is change. This is the conception of her religion. So she forms a new religion, which she calls Earthseed, and you can see that the concept Earthseed has two words. It's a compound noun, earth and seed. So it comes from nature, it comes from earth. So we understand that God is in direct reference to nature. That is, God changes when we change nature. So God changes when we change nature in a positive way. So this is her conception of Earthseed. That means that they have to change as a society. And this is the difference between her morality and that of her father's. They have to change, not to keep the society safe, to change the society, to change the connection between the humans and the world they are living in. So the main principles of Earthseed are three: change and adaptability. So Lauren's father's religion promotes stability. Hers promotes, and this is the source of religion, the conventional source of religion. And according to her, this kind of religion is what offended the God of change, because it is after conventionalism, and it is against the principles of the God of change. Diversity. Lauren's community is classless, genderless, and non-racist. It accepts no boundaries. Diversity empowers rather than weakens its members. Diversity, not just in terms of color of skin, but also women, men, and all. So they are equally powerful in her society. An example of this is a member of a society called Zahra. Zahra is a Black woman in her society that was a street girl and was saved by a polygamist member of her society. What she brings to the group of Lauren is that she has these street skills. So she kind of helped them survive in the society. Another example is another character who mothers an orphan. So every woman, every man has a function in Lauren's society, and she makes them, she allows them the freedom contribute to her society. And this is one of the this principle is one of the principles of Earthseed. There is resilience, which is the opposite of self-victimization. You know that human beings tend to self-victimize themselves. That is to imagine themselves in a role of a victim. Okay, so she believes that Earthseed should work against this. And one of the examples in the novel of the members who would not survive and who self-victimize themselves is Tracy Dunn, who mourns her daughter's death and her guilt of neglecting her by her suicidal act of walking out of the wall of their gated community. Now, Acorn is a seed, actually, is the name of the community that the new community of Lauren, of course, after they destroyed their gated community and they went up north. Earthseed is a religion of change and resistance. It is a religion of connectedness between individuals with each other and between individuals and nature. The new home Lauren found is called Acorn, whose seed, we know that Acorn survived climate change. So she believes that Acorn, their society, survivors would survive also the change, the climate change, because they would bring change themselves. So the ending of the novel is very symbolic. They all share memories from the Bible, from poems of Earthseed, because she keeps a journal, and to honor their loved ones who passed away, which shows that Earthseed accepts all religions, even atheism, because her husband, the doctor whom she marries to, is an atheist. So she accepts everyone the way they are in her society. And no one is afraid to show their true nature, their true self. So, conclusion, what Butler creates is a unique story of hope, which is a representation that distinguishes. And as I said, that Butler brings a new model, and a different model from those who usually write climate fiction. It was rather pessimistic at many times, and it shows that members of the society are incapable of changing it. So she brings a new model, a hopeful model, from other climate fiction novels, although most cli-fi stories come primarily from a place of warning rather than discovery. So it's a warning story usually. Butler's story, with Lauren's creative mind and powerful empathy, displays a model for an actionable and optimistic insight. And this is what would help the audience, the reader, to engage positively towards nature. Because those stories that are pessimistic usually, and where members are incapable of changing the society they live in, this type of story usually affects its readers in a negative form, because they wouldn't feel the need to act towards changing nature. So this is thank you in your language, I suppose. Is it correct?
Yeah.
Great. Now you're going to teach me how to pronounce it.
Dziękuję.
Dziękuję. Dziękuję, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much. Should I? I forgot about yes. Do you have any questions?
May I have one?
Yeah.
The parable of the sower is quite an important parable in the New Testament.
Yes.
Is that story that we read in the New Testament about the seed planted on different types of lands somehow reflected?
Yes.
In the text itself?
I think it is, because her ultimate plan is not to stay in Earth. She imagines different worlds and you know that Butler writes a different novel also from. She imagines that they would eventually move to Mars and to other planets. So this seed is going to be planted in other planets, and there would be life for human beings elsewhere. Okay? But this novel focuses on Earth as a beginning for the philosophy of Earthseed. So yes, it is inspired from that story from the Bible, actually, where the seeds are planted everywhere. She imagines that she would plant that seed of hope, of course, in other planets rather than just Earth. So this is what she imagines. Of course, in the next novel, I think, I'm not very sure, I haven't read the next novel, but what I know is that her daughter is going to carry on that tradition of bringing change to the world through planting the seed of hope for humanity. Is there any other question? They are exhausted from your quiz, the one that you have given.
Yeah, clear. So
Maybe one more.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested in spirituality and
Yeah, me too.
religious texts. So I'm just wondering, what about the author's religious beliefs?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think that she just believes that her approach to life is antagonistic. I don't think that she has an idea of a god, an omnipotent god. So her beliefs resemble that of Lauren in the novel. That she believes in the spirituality that connects us to nature. And it's this kind of spirituality that would, in a way, according to her, bring change to the world. So this is actually her principle of life. Yes.
we did something similar like the romanticism writers.
Yes, yes. So it's important that the connection between the elements and nature. Yes, in a way. Yes. Is there any other question? Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but do you personally think that climate fiction should be connected with like science fiction? Like it should be a part of it, or it should be?
I believe it is part of it. It's a truth that we cannot really deny. Thank you for the question. Because it relies on environmental science, it relies on a type of science, and it makes unfathomable data concrete and reachable to the audience. This is actually science fiction. It's about making something that is inscrutable in science, understandable to the audience through fiction. And I think it's also the same thing for climate fiction. It's environmental science simplified for the simple-minded reader to connect to it in a way that is different from connecting to the science. Okay, because we cannot be, usually there are a great category of people who are not interested in science. So science fiction and climate fiction makes that more concrete, more approachable by the readers. Is it understood if I answer your question? Yes. Is there any other question? You can be brave as you last minute. No? Okay then, thank you very much everyone. It was nice meeting you all.
Thank you very much.